The Gold 1 mine in Springs, east of Johannesburg, has confirmed that all miners have come to the surface. About 400 mine workers staged an underground protest in what was described as a sit-in, while the company has labelled it as a hostage drama. The protest followed the dismissal of 50 workers who took part in an illegal underground protest in October. With the miners now all above ground, Gold 1's spokesperson and head of legal says some of the workers were severely assaulted. The National Union of Mine Workers say the miners did not receive any food while underground. It appears those who took part in the second industrial action will face the same fate as those they had been fighting for. All right, for more on this, we now cross to SABC News economics reporter Mpumelelo Maphalala, who has been covering the story quite extensively. Mpumelelo, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Perhaps just give us the latest when it comes to that protest in which we saw earlier today. We understand that all the miners who were underground have resurfaced.
Good evening, and good evening to the viewers at home. Yes, that's true. All the miners have resurfaced following 4 to 5 days of being underground. And it seems as though one of the reasons as to them resurfacing was because of being fatigued and tired. And as you mentioned, they did not receive any food. Yes, there was water because there's water underground, but imagine being underground for almost 5 days without any food. I think that would also be able to make someone become very irritable, very tired. Some people have medical conditions and the like. So I think they had fought a good fight, but eventually they had to relent.
And Mpumelelo, we also understand, seeing these reports saying that some of these mine workers were actually coerced into actually being part of this protest, and some were forced and taken against their own will to stay, underground. What are they saying when they resurfaced this morning? Did you get a chance to speak to any of those miners? And could you at least confirm some of these reports coming out from the mine?
Yes, I got a chance to speak with the miners, and the miners that we got to speak to were saying that no, it was not a sit-in. It was not a hostage situation. It was a sit-in where they all partook in, or they had initially planned to try and be in solidarity of the miners that were fired following the initial strike that took place in October. And they were saying that they want them reinstated, and they want the balloting process to happen as soon as possible so that they can get AMCU to be the party, to be the union that will be recognized going forward.
And do you have any clue where these reports are coming from, when it comes to these reports saying that some of these miners were actually coerced and they were held against their own will?
I actually think one of the reasons is because there were over 400 miners that were part of the strike action. Some were not initially obliged, not obliged, but they didn't choose to partake. They were just going into work in the evening for a shift, and then in the morning they were not allowed to come out. So I think that's probably one of the elements that one can say was the hostage part. We also saw ambulances come in the morning before the miners resurfaced. So we also think that maybe some were injured. Maybe there was some infighting maybe in day 3, between day 4 and day 5, when some wanted to resurface before the actual consensus was made. And that also caused some sort of conflict between the miners, and maybe some were then beaten or maybe forced to stay against their will.
And Mpumelelo, earlier you spoke of some miners who have medical conditions. Now you're even mentioning some who were allegedly assaulted. Do we know where these miners are at the moment? Are some of them receiving any medical treatment if they may need any?
According to the mine spokespersons, yes, there are those that were taken to hospital. I think everyone that resurfaced, the miners were actually checked for medical reasons, and then those that were deemed as to be not fine were then taken to hospital to have them medically examined.
And when it comes to the mine itself, what are they saying now? I mean, we're also seeing that some of these mine workers can actually suffer the same fate as those who were dismissed in October. Will these also 400 plus employees also suffer the same fate?
Well, according to Ziad, he said with the interview that he did earlier on today is that the same investigation will be gone through to determine as to who are the perpetrators and the culprits in this sit-in. And he said that there will also be repercussions that they'll have to face. And I would assume that intentionally or essentially means that they will be also facing the same fate as the initial strike miners that took part in the strike.
Yeah, and what are the mine workers saying about any ramifications that they may face because of this protest that they held underground?
From the miners that I spoke to, it seems as though they were anticipating this reaction or this outcome, because when they decided to partake in the strike, they knew that this would be an alternative, but because they wanted to fight for their fellow colleagues and to show management for management to cave into the demand, it was a risk that they were willing to take.
All right, then, Mpumelelo, thank you so much for your time. That is SABC News economics reporter there, Mpumelelo Maphalala, who has been covering that Gold One Mine story. And of course, just giving us the latest update coming out from the east of Johannesburg.